Hey, it's Money, and welcome to the Munshire. Now, this video is probably going to be coming to you completely out of schedule. I get that we haven't established much of a rapport here yet, but I had very big plans for this year, and I kind of already failed them. That being said, I'll tell you a little about my goals. What I expected this year in terms of YouTube, and what to expect in the channel, hopefully, if I catch up with the schedule I've crafted for myself that no one else knows about somewhere along the way. Hopefully this is what'll be happening. Basically, I made a New Year resolution where I'd like to complete one video game a month and really cement myself as an experienced gamer. This kind of goes against my current philosophy of being a casual gamer, but you know, whatever. We're learning and we're experiencing gaming, and I want to focus on probably mostly older games that I didn't get to experience because I was a child. And also I want to branch out from just what I'd normally play, which is, you know, League of Legends and farming sims. But if I do end up playing any new games this year, which I mean, okay, I like inevitably that will happen, but like don't yell at me. Don't yell at me. I know I just said I want to play mostly old games, but don't yell at me. I will probably also be playing some newer games. But anyway, January's game was supposed to be Okami. It's currently... oh, it's not even February. It's currently March. And I beat Okami in February. But this is not going to be out. Hopefully before the end of March. Fingers crossed. It was supposed to be out sooner, but I've had an incident of bitey face. I've had an incident of dog bitey face, so I didn't film for a little bit, and I still look like a dog has bit my face, but we could work past that, I think. Oh, and also, I moved, which you guys probably don't like care or know because you don't know me that well yet, but I moved, and that was time consuming, so I'm just gonna push forward and pretend January didn't happen, or we'll squeeze in like a game along the way to get 12 games done, but I don't know, that's my plan. But yeah, I played Okami for the first time, so let's get into that. Expectations. I always like talking about my expectations for games, so I can logic out my own thought process and lay down any biases I have. For Okami, I didn't really have many expectations, I'll be honest. This was very much a learn as we go situation. I picked up Okami as the first game I wanted to play this year, really just because I saw the announcement for Okami 2 while watching the 2024 Game Awards and thought, oh, I should probably play that game. That's a popular game. I should probably check that out. All I really know or knew about Okami was that it was a well-beloved game where you play as a wolf. That's it. And it's just one of those games that Steam's been trying to sell me for years. It's always up there. It's always right up there on sale or something. So my expectations were pretty much that this will be a good game. It's popular. A lot of people adore it. I did hope that I would adore it as well. I'll be honest with you now for a couple minutes here. There's a slight gap in my memory in regards to Okami. It may be because I started it before I moved, at the very beginning of January, and came back to it somewhere in the middle of February. I'm very lost, very insecure. But this might work in our favor because I can tell you what really stood out in the first couple hours of the game. But basically, in Okami, you play as a little wolf guy. Actually, I think they're a lady, who is the god Amaterasu. You wake up after a 100-year-long nap to the world in chaos, created by the same evil monster that caused this little nap of yours 100 years in the past. Okami does the whole history is repeating itself thing, so after hearing the story of what happened in the past, you're given the task of doing it all over again. And thus, you set off on a little journey to save the world. Well, save some villages in Japan? I assume if they don't stop the big evil monster, the world will also be in peril in a couple years, so we'll go with save the world for this one. While I was playing, there were a couple of phrases that just kept popping up in my mind over and over again. Everywhere I went, I found myself repeating, Oh, this is so charming. It's so cute. It's such a delightful, cute little charming game. And that sums up Okami. Okay, I have more to say than that, but of course I have more to say than just that, but the general vibe of the game is just cute, charming, delightful. Now, people probably don't want to hear this. I'm assuming fans of the game wouldn't want to hear this, but I would probably classify Okami as a cozy game. I really didn't expect to feel this way about the game, but then again, I didn't expect much in general, so that might mean close to nothing. But the core mechanics are just so peaceful, endearing, maybe whimsy. I'd say for the first half of Okami, this is especially true as the difficulty is very minimal until way later in the game. The core mechanics of Okami are essentially just three things: exploring, combat, and painting. I had no idea about the painting before I started, but Amaterasu's power is the power of the brushstroke. There's a lot of ways you can use your brush to interact with the world. You can conjure lily pads to jump on, slash boulders, grow trees, and a lot more. You even use your brush in combat, which gives most battles kind of like a puzzle aspect, which in turn I think really leans the game like into the cozy vibe. That and the combat is just pretty simple. It certainly stands out compared to other games, but it's not complicated combat. Most of the times I'm just sitting there drooling like, I was gonna show you. But my mouse doesn't. My mouse. Pretend this is my mouse. Okay, this is what gameplay is like. That's me right-clicking, okay? But a controller, okay? We pretended. Anyway, moving forward. Many of the boss encounters I've had while playing feel pretty reminiscent of stuff I encountered in Ocarina of Time as a kid. Don't quote me on that. I mostly ran around that game dazed and confused, though I think kid me definitely would have understood Okami a lot better than kid me understood The Legend of Zelda. But the bosses feel very focused on puzzle solving, not physical skill. I both appreciated this and was frustrated by it. After coming off the high of multiple Souls-like, I often wanted way more interaction within the fights. I wanted at least a little bit more of a challenge, especially because when I got to the end screen, like the credits, I died a total of 0 times throughout my entire playthrough. I'm not saying that the combat should be Souls level of challenging, but realistically, I think most Souls games are too hard, but there has to be a balance. There has to be a sense of fulfillment after a fight. I can't blame Okami too much for this though. It came out in 2006, so the limits of what games can do have changed drastically since then. I'm very excited to see what Okami 2 can bring to the table though. I feel like a lot of the qualms I had while playing were pretty directly related to the game's age. More on that later. I think what really drew me in, because we're painting. What really drew me into Okami is the interactiveness of it all. For a game from 2006, the fluidity and consistency of what you can accomplish just feels great. There's so many small details that really tie everything together. One of my personal favorites is the ability to bite people for fun. Like I'm a dog. I feel like there's just so many games that they wouldn't even, you be a dog and you wouldn't be able to do that. Except honestly nowadays it's almost commonplace. There's like the goose game and those cat games where you're just a cat or you're just a goose. But for 2006, I feel like that was not the norm. There were actually a few times I got stuck in Okami actually just because normal games, whatever. A lot of games put you in a box, right? It's very clear like what you can and cannot do, And a lot of the difficulty I ended up facing while playing Okami was made up kind of all by me in my own head. Because I was trapped in my little video game box. So many times when I was like figured something out, my reaction was just like, oh shit, like I can do that? That's what I'm supposed to do? That's allowed? At the same time, Okami still manages to be a pretty simple game. Now, this is the balance in the game that I did love. None of the puzzles or exploration were very hard to get through, and the story is pleasant and it's easy to digest. Well, the first half of the story is. It kind of devolves the deeper you get into the game, but it's still pretty simple, like friendship always wins type of moral storytelling, with a little bit of extra steps along the way. But overall, I think Okami feels like Breath of the Wild, but obviously before a time where something like that could exist, but it has the same bones, you know? Okay, now this is the section where I talk about my qualms with Okami. Okami is a beautiful, artistic game. It's silly and lighthearted, it's heartwarming and unique, but in my opinion, it's not without flaws. If I had not set out with the direct goal of completing this game, I probably would have stopped playing. I felt unrivaled levels of frustration while playing. A lot of that for me is probably being an impatient bastard, but I think a lot of it also had to do with the game's age. As I mentioned earlier, I did not grow up playing a ton of games. Like, I was hardly capable of having thoughts when this game came out, and my current repertoire of games is pretty limited. Oh my gosh, what this did remind me of Pokemon Ranger. I did play that, because you can draw circles in Pokemon Ranger. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, obviously Okami was a DS game. Okami didn't even come out on the DS. You had to paint with your controller? That's insane. How are people doing that? Anyway, you get my point. I know very little about older games. My first qualm is with the controls. They feel so awful and miserable on PC, and that is probably, I'm assuming, the best way to play the game. I can't imagine how frustrating drawing with a controller would be. So I guess the good part is I'm not playing on controller. I get to play with a mouse. But even on the PC, a lot of the drawing was just very sensitive. I would draw like the same circle, presumably what I thought was the same circle, over and over and over again, and nothing would happen. That was where a lot of the frustration came for me, was just having to repeat the same drawing, thinking I'm doing it right, trying to like do a perfect circle or a perfect line, and the game just not picking up on it. I assume this will not be like a problem in future games. And even if it is a problem, I'm sure it'll be like way less. But in this game, it was almost like, it was extensive. I felt pretty frequently I was just constantly having errors where the game was not understanding my brushstroke. I want to know if this is something everyone experienced, or if I just like am ill and don't know how to draw a line. If it's just me, I hope it's not just me. If it's just me, I don't know what I would do. But I'm gonna assume that everyone like playing this game has had this problem, and I'm gonna assume people on controller had this problem, and it's very hard to like get through your own frustration when you just have to repeat the same thing over and over again and hope that it magically works that time. As far as the controls go, I don't even know if that's like a control thing. Is that, I mean, that's controls. But I also found, anyway, I also found the movement really frustrating. Your character is like really floaty and doesn't really grapple onto things. Piloting your little wolf feels like driving your first beater with like worn out brake pads, and you're constantly thinking you're about to crash the front window. That, I feel like, might be personal preference. I like my characters to have a little bit more weight on them. I think that combined with like a shitty 2006 camera was not working for me. I think I spent half of the game like adjusting and readjusting the camera, especially because the camera is like how you interact with the world while you're painting. So it's just me like correcting angles for, I mean, it wasn't hours, but like if you totaled it, it'd probably be an hour at least. Well, I don't know, I'm dramatic, who knows? It was frustrating, that's all, that's the point. My second qualm was repetition. A part of what makes this game so easy to understand, I think, is also a part of its downfall, for me at least, as well. I'll repeat again, these are my opinions. But it's not like the type of repetition you probably think it is. Most open zone games with this problem have like boring fetch quests, right? Make the game stale. While sometimes a storyline will overstay its welcome in Okami, the issues I have is with the game's dialogue. Characters will rehash the same information with you over and over and over again, and the game requires you to exhaust a character's dialogue to move forward in a lot of instances. And in a lot of cases, said character is just repeating the same thing they've already told you but worded differently. Or they're repeating the same information a different character has told you. It's just exhausting. Towards the end of the game, I was just like flipping through all the dialogue because I was tired of it. I was skipping it all. Thankfully, all important information in the dialogue boxes are colored red, so skipping through and skim reading is kind of a viable option for progression. So I mean, you have that going for you. If I wasn't playing Okami in 4 to 5 hour daily sprints, I can see how the repetition could be helpful for keeping players on track. But I was on a time crunch here. I needed this game done. So many points, it just made me feel like the game thought I was stupid. It also really made me want to slow down and play at a much leisurely pace just so I could feel like the repetition was necessary. But I've concluded it wasn't necessary, especially because Okami features so many different ways to obtain clues if you do ever get stuck on a puzzle. You have Isun, basically like Navi, who jumps out of you every time you come across something important. Not to mention, he's one of the worst offenders of repeating information told to me mere seconds prior. Not minutes, seconds, literally. You've got a fortune teller who you can go to see for hints anytime you're lost, and you can look in your journal, which usually has logs that restate all of the important red text I talked about earlier. Plus, there are like 1,000 prompts everywhere you go that give you information. There's constantly things bombarding you with text telling you what you need to do next, so I don't know. I got annoyed with this pretty quickly. I think you can tell. As someone with huge patience problems, I was simply not having this. This took away a lot of the enjoyability of the game for me. It was just not fun. Thankfully, just like my last point, these are problems that Okami 2 probably isn't gonna have. I think even the repetition in the game is just a sign of the age, where, you know, looking at playthroughs on YouTube or pulling up an IGN guide weren't really a thing. Maybe they were they? How big was the internet then? No, they weren't. When did YouTube come out? It wasn't popular. Anyway, this type of dialogue was probably really helpful for a lot of players when the game came out, especially considered Okami offered a lot of brand new mechanics that haven't really been seen before. Even though I want to believe they made a mistake making the game so repetitive, the reality might be that the game just wasn't made for me. It wasn't made for a modern gamer. This was made for what was normal in 2006. And when I look past these issues, it's easy to say the game still stands up to this day, because these issues are pretty small, and I think most people wouldn't even mind them. They feel pretty, like, they feel much like personal issues to me with my own problems and frustration and patience. I know a lot of people who would also feel the same way as me, but I definitely think there's a lot more people who just wouldn't care about any of these problems. The last thing I didn't like about Okami, it's pretty small, and it won't matter to a bunch of people, but this is my video where I talk about my thoughts, so I'm going to bring it up anyway. The Navi character, Isun, is an absolute dog. There is a weird level of sexualization in this game that I didn't expect, and it's completely driven by one character, which is like your sidekick, so he's always around. I'm all for having women be hot in games, That, like, I don't care about. I don't care about boobs being out or butts or whatever. I know there's a ton of drama surrounding that right now. Don't care. But Isun frankly harasses the woman in Okami. I just wanted to bring it up because it was something that made me uncomfortable. I'm a woman playing this game, so we're gonna be analyzing it through a feminist lens. I can't help that. But the woman in the video game, like, receiving the harassment, never even responded to it. They were just blanks, like, ignorance. I guess ignoring it is a type of response, but I don't know. I didn't like it. The harassment it mentioned was just like typically what women have to deal with on a daily basis type stuff, like comments on their bodies and being called baby or honey by a stranger. It wasn't anything extreme, and it was very, I mean, like, if you watch an Adam Sandler movie, this was kind of like widely accepted is popular humor at the time. So I can't be too mad. I can just hope that it doesn't, like, go into the next game, that they don't include something like that in the next game. I mean, if Isun's in the next game, they probably have to keep his personality, but then it would just be like, oh, it's nostalgia, like, that's how the character is. So, I don't know. It's really not, like, a huge deal, but it just made me a little bit uncomfortable, and I think other women playing it would also be like, ooh, icky, I don't like that. But it is a really tiny part of the game, and I think also most female gamers probably be able to look past it to play the rest of the game, which is pretty great. Overall though, I think Okami was a really great game, and I can see why so many people hold it dear to their heart. I think I was a little disappointed in it because I was ready for a modern gaming masterpiece, but since I wanted to focus on playing some older games, classic games, this was a great start to get myself in check and know what I'm in for. I'm pretty pleased that I was still able to appreciate Kami, even though it's something I want to really play. If it weren't for this series I'm starting, there's a lot of games I would probably never play. So I think there are going to be a lot of moments like this in the future where I'm just playing stuff that is just okay to me, and I understand that it's really good and I understand its value, but I don't know, I don't play puzzle games. I play League of Legends all day long. If anything, I'm trying to brainwash myself into not being addicted to League of Legends. Before I send you away, I'd like to show you some of the games I'm thinking about for the next month. I've made a little Excel sheet, so feel free to recommend anything you think I might like or would build up my gamer experience. I've included a few upcoming games that I want to play, so don't be shocked by them, okay? But I'm thinking I'd like to play Papers, Please for the next game. If the next video is not Papers, Please, do not be shocked. Eventually, I'd like to maybe do a little wheel spin to pick the next game we conquer. But anyway, thank you for watching this video through to the end. Remember to subscribe if you want to see things like this, and check me out at MuddyFE on Twitch if you want to watch me in action, where I will be playing the game of the month, or League of Legends.